Hey everyone, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. I am Frederick, and in today's video we are continuing our exciting series on building a robust e-commerce platform using .NET 8 microservice. In this episode, we focus on creating the product API, a critical component for our e-commerce system. That is what we're going to cover in this video. We're going to set up our product API. After that, we're going to create a CRUD operation, that is create, read, update, and delete. You make sure that you make it simple, readable as well by implementing a clean architecture. Alright, so let's get started. But before we do that, make sure you've checked the previous video, and that gives you an introduction to this project. If you haven't checked that, I suggest you check that. So check this video description. You're going to find a link in there, or the playlist. You can go through it and I'll watch that video. Alright, so let's get started. So this is what we're going to do. We created a solution for the first one for our e-commerce shared library, and we have it over here. I don't want to cramp all this together. I want to separate them and different solutions. Okay, so with this solution that we have as an e-commerce or shared library, we're going to close this. We're going to create our new solution, and that's going to be product solution. All right, so let's say we're going to create a new solution. Then let's make it as, let's first create blank solution here, and the name is going to be demo e-commerce.product API solution. Change the location, and now let's create this solution. So after we are done with that, we're going to add a project to this. So now that we have our solution created, we're going to add our clean architecture. So let's create new project. This class library, and within this I'm going to say this is a product API dot, then let's say there's an application or domain. Well, you can create any of them. So you have an application. Now let's add that. Let's also add domain. So on the same solution, we add a new project, and this also library, and that is product API domain. Then we need to add infrastructure. Let's create it. And with the web API, I'm going to name it as presentation. So I have a new project again. Now this time right, it's not C#, rather it's going to be the web API, and that is a product API, and I'm going to say this presentation. And we make sure we have the defaults. Let's enable API support for now. When we are done, we're going to remove that, but for now let's make it available. Now click on create. Let's get this project also created and added. Alright, so when you check the solution, we have these 4 projects added, which form our clean architecture. Alright, so now we have C#. We have a library created already. Do you remember? So we're going to add an existing project. And now with this project, we have the shared library already. So we're going to add this project to this project. So you can see we have our shared library being used or being added to this product. Alright, now let's make some default cleanup. We can remove this weather forecast. Let's also remove this. Then we have a default controller, and that is the weather forecast. We don't need it, so we can remove that. Now when we check the other class, other project, we can also make some default cleanup, deleting all the default class created. Alright, now let's rebuild the solution together. So now that we see 5 succeeded in building, let's go to our infrastructure, and then in the dependencies, let's install package in here. That is the only package that you're going to need in here. The rest have been installed in the shared project, so we need not to install any package again. Let's install this so we can perform migration as soon as we add this project. So now this has been installed. Let's set up the dependencies. Let's add project. So from this asset library, so in this application, we're going to add this, so we can open application, right click on this, add project references, and in here we need a shared library, and then we need a domain. So let's create the dependencies. Aside from that, we go to our infrastructure, which needs application and then the shared library. So in here, infrastructure, dependencies, add project references, and now here we are going to add this application. Application has shared library already, so let's check it out. Now as soon as you add this from the project references, product application, that is an application in here, you can see it has the shared library also added already. So definitely we are adding this to project to this. Okay, now the next one here is the presentation. So right click on dependencies, go to add project references, and in here we need to add only the infrastructure, which also contains all the above. So let's click on OK, and now we have this added. Alright, so once again, let's see. So this is set and done. Let's go to our domain project and let's create our product entity. And in here, I'm going to add a folder, name it as entity or entities. Well, in case you have 2 or more, but here we're going to have only 1. You can scale this, you can add more. This is a demo, so I'm going to add just a simple model, and that's going to be for product. So let's add a class, and I'm going to name this as product. So with this product, I'm going to have an ID, name, price, and quantity. That is what I want to have in my product entity. So here I'm going to have my ID, and that is an ID. I'm going to have product name. Then I want to have decimal for price. Then I'm going to have the last one, and that's going to be quantity. That's what I want to have in my product. Let's go to application, and then let's go and create our DTO. That's the data transfer object, which is going to use to communicate data from the database and to our user. So here in application, let's add a folder to this. No. I click on this. Let's add folder, and now with this, you're going to name it as DTOs. Now this folder, we're going to have a product DTO. So let's add, and that is a product DTO. Now this product DTO, we're going to make it as a record. So this is going to be public. Record. And now with this, we want to have the ID. So this is ID, and we want to have name. But before this name, we want to make sure we have our required attribute specified, and we're going to say this is string. It's a product name. We want to make sure we have required attribute, and here we also have range. Now with this range, let's specify the minimum should be quantity should be 1, and maximum, let's say this int dot maximum max value. Okay, and with this we're going to say this is int quantity. Then we have the last one, which is also required, and aside from that, it has data type. And now with this data type, you're saying the data type dot currency, and you know what, this is what, decimal. So decimal, and I will say this is price. These are the properties that you want to have in a product. We have the same thing in the entity, right? And we have this, we are having the same thing here as a DTO. Great. So let's remove the unused using to make it simple. Okay, so now that we have this, you know, we are going to what we are done, we're going to test this with unit test. And in unit test, when creating a code for unit test, you have to make sure that you do not include static files, static classes. Okay, so if you want to test your project, then try as much as possible not to include many static classes, because in unit test you cannot test static class. I believe you are getting it. Good. But with this, you're going to create only one, and now this class is a conversion class. Is it going to be a static class? We're not going to test this. In a unit test, we're going to exclude this. Okay. Maybe you can also implement AutoMapper or Mapster. But since this is a small application and we do not have much properties, we want to limit the packages that we use, the external packages that we use, and we can include our own. So this is a simple code to convert from DTO and also to DTO. We convert from DTO to entity and vice versa, from entity to DTO. It's a simple conversion class that we're going to create in here. But if you don't want to do this, you can implement AutoMapper. I've made a video on that. You can also implement Mapster. I've also made a video on that, and you can work around with any of them. But let's see, we're going to create our own. So in the DTO folder, let's add another one folder in here, and I'm going to say this is conversions. In this conversions, let's add a product conversion. Okay, now with this product conversion, we want to make this a static class. So this is going to be public static class product conversion, and we want to have to entity and from entity. So let's have two methods to handle that. So there's a public static, and here you want to return product. And now we're saying to entity, we pass in this product DTO that we created as product, and here we're going to use our this lambda expression to have a new keyword. And now this new, we're going to say that ID is equal to the product coming in dot ID. You want to have name here is equal to the product coming in here dot name. Then you want to have quantity is equal to the product coming in here quantity. Then we're going to have price, and we are saying that there's a product coming in price. Okay, very simple one. So that's the reason why I am saying we are not going to use any this conversion packages. Okay, we have our own implemented, very simple one and readable. Okay, so we're going to have the next one is it's a static, and with this we want to return, we want this method to convert if it is a list or single entity. We don't want to create another method for that. You want to create this method to handle both. Okay, and in that we can return product DTO, which could be null, and also our enumerable of same product DTO. This also could be null, so let's also make sure we add that. Okay, enumerable, so this should come, yes, that's the right place. Okay, and now we are saying this is from entity, so that is the name that we are giving to this. And with this method, it's going to take in we are having this return type, so it must take in the same as a payload. This should be comma in here. All right, then from entity, so we need to specify our product. Now this is coming as a product, and that is the entity itself. And now we have enumerable of product. The reason why we are doing this is, anytime that we make a request to database and it returns the data to us, or I want to make a request to database, we need to convert from the DTO to the entity itself, because that is what you have in a database, dbset. So we want to switch between dbset data entity and also the DTO. So that's the reason why we are having this simple method to handle that for us. So in here we're going to specify our product, and this product also be null. We send this as product. Okay, so we having this simple method to handle that. And we are having our product in here, product for single entity, and we have product for multiple or many. So in here we're going to return that is single. So we're going to return single, and to return single we can check if this product coming in is null, or the product list that is coming in here, or the product list coming here is null. So to return, you want to make sure this is not. Then what are we going to do? We want to have a single product. Now this product, we're going to say is equal to new product DTO. Now since we use record, we can specify the property straight ahead. So we can say that this is product dot, maybe let me put this line like that. So this is, the first thing is an ID, so we're going to say this is product dot ID, and that's going to represent for the ID itself. We're going to have the name. So, and now here we're going to say this is product dot name. Then we're going to have product dot quantity. Then product dot price. And that is what we are returning. We make sure we check for null. Okay, so with this, after we are having this, we're going to return. We need to return this too, so let's return this single product that we have created. And now with the list, we say this is null because we are not converting, the list is empty, so we must provide null to that. And now let's also check if it's a list, and that is where we need to return list. We're going to say if product, or if product is not null, or product is null, that is where we want to get this method file. We want to create this product. So when we say equal to this product that we have in here, dot, you want to make select. So this select, you want to select product DTO. So product DTO, and now this product DTO, we're going to map this as pdto dot, we having this DTO, so we're going to select a new DTO for that. Okay, so with this DTO, we're going to say this maps to new. Then here we can have access to our product DTO. Now this product DTO, we need to specify the ID. So with this, because this is talking about the entity itself, not the DTO. So this entity.id for the DTO, you want to have this entity.name for the DTO, this entity.quantity for the DTO, and on this entity.price for the DTO. And after that, what we're going to do here is we're going to convert this to a list. So we can, we have to remove this. Yeah, so it should be this. Then we want to convert this to list. Okay, so we had this as a list. We can check for now. And when we are done, since you are working on the list, we want to return single. Here is going to be what? Null. So return. Let's pass in now for single model, and I will leave 0 pass in this product. So that's a simple conversion that we're doing. But in case it is not any of these, meaning maybe an error could occur, so we want to return null, and everything is null because we haven't provided any record, and based on that, we want to return null to each. So this is a simple conversion that we have. Now that we are done with this, we can close all of this, save. Let's create an interface. So from this, let's add another folder to this. So this is going to be an interface or contract. So interfaces, you can add more. With this interface, this is going to be an iProduct interface. So let's have, although I choose class, but all we need is an interface. And you make sure we say iProduct. Well, the I stand for interface, so I need not to add the interface again. And here is a public. Do you remember that in our shared class, we created a generic interface? So with this, I'm going to inherit from that generic interface, and I'll pass in the model product. Very simple one. I'm done. That is quite simple. Okay, so you make sure we include the using statement in here using this. Okay, so in case you have any extra interface that you want to add, you can go ahead and I'll add them in here. But for now, we want to maintain what we have already, and that is what we need. Okay, so we can remove this to make it very simple. Yes, let's go ahead. So we are done with our application. Now we're going to work on, we're also done with our entity. So now we're going to work on with our infrastructure. That is, we're going to have our repo. Okay, the implementation of the interface that we have in here. Great. Now let's see. So go to the infrastructure. We're going to add a folder to this. Organization is the key, and I will say repositories. Now this repositories, we're going to add a repo. That's going to be a product repo. We have the interface created already, so I'm going to say this is product repository. Now this product repository, you know what, is going to inherit from, not from the generic, but rather from the interface that we have created, which is inheriting from the generic. Okay, so we're going to say iProduct, and now with this we need to include a namespace and also implement all the interfaces that it has, and we've done that. So we can remove the ones we are not using, remove unnecessary using, make it simple. Yes, so we have this. Now here we need to inject our DB context, but we haven't created a DB context yet, right? We have a generic DB context created in the shell library, but what we need to do here is we need to go and inherit from that DB context and now customize to suit what we want in here. In each API, we're going to customize that the DB context generic that we have created in the shell library, and to suit what you want, because you know each API is going to have a different set of DB set, that is an entity. So let's go ahead, and in here we're going to add a folder to this, and this is going to be data. I'm going to add a class, or you and I, we're going to add a class to this, and I'm going to say, since this is limited to product, I'm going to say this is product DB context. Now this DB context, this has to inherit from DB context. So DB context, and this should come from entity framework call. We can create constructor for this, but you know what, we want to use the introduction of the primary constructor introduced in C# version 12. Let's make this as public, and in here we want to specify our DB context option straight ahead inside this. So DB context, then we want to specify the options, passing the context class, and now after that we're going to say this is options, and now with this options it's going to have from the base, and we need to specify the base at this DB context, passing this option. We are referring to this DB context, so let's pass in this options in here. Great, so we are done with that. Aside from this, let's create a class to handle. Let's create a DB sets. Now this DB set talking about product, and what is the name that I want to give to a database table? Well, that is product for mine. Change it to yours. Then we have our product. Let's include the entity namespace or the using statement. Okay, so now that we have this beautiful created, let's go back to our repo, and in here we're going to say this is our product DB context. Now we say this is context. So we go ahead, and now with the create, we're going to implement the create other card. Okay, so let's start working on that. And here we're going to introduce local exception handler, and that is a try catch block. So we make sure that any method that we want to define, we implement it within this try catch block. All right, so let's have our try. That is the first thing to work on that. Then in here we're going to have our catch. So in our catch, it's going to have an exception. We're going to say this is EX, and now with this exception, what are we going to do in here? We want to log the original exception. Log the original exception. Okay, so in here you could see we created a method as log exception. We did that, and it's a log exceptions. Now this exceptions is going to be in a shared library. Do you remember? And after that, the reason why we are doing this is, you know, when you have an exception, we don't want to display that exception to the user. Actually, we want to give the user a certain information, but not the exception. So log the original exception, and now the next thing here, it is this displays carry free. I call this carry free. Okay, so message to the client. So that is what you need to do. And now in this, we're going to return new response, which was created in the shared library. And in here, status here, it is false. And I will say error occurred, adding new product. That's the simple thing that you want to show the user. Okay, so this is to return a response, and this must be an async before this is going to work. Great. Now we've handled the local error that may pop up in here. Now let's go and do the real code. So let's first get the product. Before we add, we need to make sure the product does not exist. So we're going to say this is get product, and now this get product, what we're going to say is an await. You know, we have get by async already, which return the first or default. So in here we're going to say that this product maps to the name. We want to check for now dot equals, then here we want to check is the entity dot product name, and the name is what you're going to take in. So you want to check if it is not found in the database. So we call this simple method to handle that. Now we're going to say if get product here is not null, and at times, you know, since you are dealing with quantity, it can set as a default value of 0 or 1. And in this case, it will not be null. Okay, so we shouldn't check for only null. We also want to check if this, we are saying the string in here, it is not. So string dot is null or empty. We want to check for this get product dot name, because the default the name is empty. So as soon as we see that the name is not empty, it tells us that yeah, this exists. And now in case it does, then we want to return new response. Now this response will be false, and I believe you know what to do, isn't it? We want to display the name of the item. So we're going to say this is entity dot name, entity dot name already exists. So entity dot name, and we say that already exists. Yes. Or already added. So maybe I can make it added. Okay, so that is what we're doing. But in case it does not, so let's first give, so check if the product already exists. Okay, so aside from this, what are you going to do? In case it does not, then you want to have a current product added. So that is a current entity. Then equal to, you're gonna have context dot, you're gonna have product database. Then that's a table dot add, and now we're gonna add a new entity that we have in here. Okay, that is this entity coming in. And now aside from that, you want to, after we add, you want to check the entity, you want to keep it. Then let's say await context dot save changes async. You want to save whatever thing that you've added, save it peacefully. And now we're going to check in here. So if current, so we say that if current entity added is not null, okay, and current entity added dot id is greater than 0, because as soon as you add it, it's going to assign an id to it, and the id is not greater than 0, it means everything is set. Then we want to return new response, and that's going to be true. And I will say that this entity dot name added to database successfully. We can customize this to suit what you want. Okay, but in case it isn't, we can have an else statement. Now you're going to return new. I know what this is going to be, right? There's going to be false. And with this, you want to say error occurred while adding this product. So let's put something down. So while adding, then in here we can have entity dot name. We make sure we have that. So that is our create. That's what we're going to do. So here we can copy the try catch block, and for delete we're going to also do same. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. Don't have to waste time typing again since we've done that already. All that I need to do here is just copy, very simple one. Then I have this try catch. So instead of saying error occurred adding, I'm going to say deleting. I'm not going to delete the product, rather deleting product. This should be an asyntax to fast things up. Okay, now let's also get the product. Now here we're going to use find by ID. Now with this we can, because here we have a product ID itself, so we can definitely find it. We say this is product, it's equal to, we can have await, and there's a method known as find by ID passing this entity.id. And now we're going to say that if product is null, then we want to return new response, that is false. And now we are saying that this entity dot name not found, because here we're going to delete it, and before we delete it we must make sure it exists. If not, then it means if it is found, then we're going to have product dot remove. And now let's remove what we have, the product that we got. After removing it, you make sure you save it. If you don't save it, it's still going to persist. So context dot save changes async. Then when we save, we need to return something to the user. So we need a response, and that is true. And now in here we can say that the entity you provided dot name is deleted successfully, and that is all. Okay, so that's what we're doing for delete. Now let's go to find by ID async. We have implemented it here, but we don't have the implementation. We are going to do that. All right, let's also grab our try catch, the catch exception, and in here you're going to have our try catch. Remember, we have it already, so we're going to paste it up. We have catch exception, and now with this error occurred, instead of retrieving, we're going to say here, retrieving product. So we're going to say retrieving product, and we're going to make a set. So we're going to say that product is equal to, we're going to have an await context dot product dot find async, passing the ID of it, and there you go. So here we can use this this ternary operator to handle that. So return, we're going to say product is null. We ask the question, is it null? If yes, let me make it not. Product is not null. If yes, then return the product. If no, then return null. We don't want to return even the instance of the product, because at times it may include some properties, default values as indicated earlier on. So we want to return null to make sure it is null. All right, that's what we are doing in here. Very simple one. We have to make sure we grab our try catch method as well. So grab your own. Let's go to get all async, and we're going to have our try catch, and error occurred retrieving products. The same thing. Now we're going to get our products, and here we're going to say that await context dot product dot toList async, and toList async is coming from EF core, but you see in EF core track all records. So with this, since I returned the list, we're doing nothing again. You want to clear, or you want to make sure we do not track it to improve the performance of this. Now let's return if product here is not null, then return the product list, else return null for me. The next one that I'm going to do here is a get by async. That's where you need to specify our function or our predicate. So with this, we're going to say this is a product, and here we can pass in anything at all. It could be name, it could be decimal, it could be anything. Okay, so we're going to say that this is product equal to await. We're going to have a context dot product, and on this product pass in this predicate. But before that, we need to pass in where clause. Then let's pass in a predicate in here. So we're not going to specify this predicate. We're going to specify by the user, or when we get to wherever that we need this, then we want to get So yeah, we can make it in a list form, or we can make it single one. So I'm making this as single first or default. Let's check for now, and we're gonna say return if product is not null question mark, then return the product, else return what you know already. Return null. Okay, so we have this, and this must be in a try catch block, isn't it? We want to handle any exception that may pop up locally first, so you make sure we have that here. We can cut this, try, paste it up, and there you go. Okay, now let's go to the updates. So for the update, we have a last one in here, and that's what we need to do. So for this update, this also must be in a try catch block. Do not forget, if necessary. So as soon as you have any exception, we're going to log it to our file, to our console, to our debugger, and also display scary message to the user. Okay, so now that we have in here, what we're going to do here is, with this is going to return a response. So instead of throwing this, no, we don't want to throw this at the time, invite operation. Since if you have a model that's going to handle the response, it's better not to throw that. Okay, so let's return itself, so we know where it's coming from. So return new response. This should be false, and that is it. This must be an async, and there you go. Okay, now with this, let's first get a product from the database. So since we have the ID, we can use find by ID, and now we need the entity.id in here. That is the ID. Now we're going to check if product is null. Then what I'm going to do, please do return new response. That will be false, and I will say this entity not found. .name. Then we're gonna say not found. That is where it is not found. But in case it is, what I'm going to do, we're going to say context dot entry, then pass in this product. The reason why we are doing this is, as I said earlier on, entity keeps tracking records from the database as soon as it gets it. Now for us to use the ef update key, we have to detach this. We have to untrack it before we can update it, else we cannot do that. Anytime we try to do it, it's going to tell us that there's already track IDs initiated, and we cannot do that. So let's detach it before we attach it again. So we're going to say .state equal to, we're going to have entity state, you see, that detach. And after we are done with this, then we can go ahead and I'll say that context, not await. You're going to have a context dot product in here. Then we can use this update. And now with this update, let's pass in the entity that is coming in. It's going to check by the ID of this entity and now assign the values to the properties in there and go away. Aside from that, we're going to say await context.save changes. Let's add the async, quite important. And you know what? Return new response after everything is successfully done. And that's going to be true. Yes, of course. And in here, we need to specify our entity. So entity.name. And we can say that .name here, we can say it's updated successfully. Yes. Well, we're done. We're done with our card operation, our card interface, and the implementation. Now, what's left here is we need to register this. So let's see how we can do that. So let's go to our project in here. In the same infrastructure, we need to create dependency injection as a service container. So I'm going to say this is dependency injection. And I mean that I'm going to create a class in here. In this class, I'm going to say this is service container. This should be a public static class, so it's a public. This should have a static class. Maybe it's not necessary. Now, aside from having this, what is the next thing that we need to do? It's quite simple. Let's have a public static method which is going to return an iService collection. So public static, and that gives you an iService collection. And this iService collection, you're going to say this add infrastructure service. So add infrastructure service, and then here we're going to make this iService collection. That is what you want to add. You say this services, and aside from that, we need an configuration, and we're going to say that this is config. And aside from that, we need to have a method. So at the end, let's have a method, and now with this, we need to add database, connectivity. Aside from that, we need to add authentication, scheme that we have created. And where can we find all this? Yes, we can find this in this library that we created, right? So we are not going to add this service because this service has been added already. What we're going to do here is we're going to say this is shared. Do you have shared? Okay, maybe shared service container. Yes, dot. Then we have add shared service. Now with this add shared service, since we are creating this service has a generic DB context, we need to specify our it takes in a T value, which the value here is not a class, rather it is a DB context. And here DB context, the product DB context that we created. In there, let's specify the services in there. Aside from that, we need a config, and we need a file name. File name is what we're going to use to create the log. Okay, so we're going to say this config. We want to have everything sits. So we're going to say this my serilog that file name. Let's check for now for this, and we are good. Okay, so we can terminate this. Then the next thing that we're going to do here is let's create dependency injection. So short, we're going to say DI between an interface and our repo. And I'm going to say this services dot add. I'm going to use scope. Now with this scope, I need to provide products, iProduct, and then I'm going to have product repository. So I have this also set, and at the end of the day, I'm going to return services. Aside from that, we have some middleware pipeline that we need to add, and in that we need to create a public static which takes in returns application builder. And let's see, I'm going to say this is use infrastructure policies. Maybe policy. Yes, policy. Okay, now this takes in this application builder. I'm going to say this is app. Aside from that, we need to register. Let's register middleware, such as global exception, which handles, so this handles external errors. Okay, not even errors, because multiple. Apart from that, listen to, do you remember this middleware that you created? Listen to only API gateway. And now, which blocks or as outside calls. Okay, so that is a shared service that we have already container. Then .use policies. Now these policies, we need to specify the app in there, and that is all. So this is what we need to do. At the end of the day, let's return this app. Beautiful. We're done. So this is what we need to do. Then so we are done with the infrastructure. So you see, we started from the application to the domain to the infrastructure, and now where do you think you are going? Presentation, and that will be the end for this. Okay, so let's close all this. Then let's go to our presentation project. In the properties line settings, this is going to run on HTTP only. So we have an HTTPS, we can scrap this. Okay, now let's have a default port for this. So this should run on 5001. It's a default port. And now the launch URL, we're going to change it, but for now it is Swagger, so no, don't worry, we have it in there. Now let's go back again to our app settings. And now in our app settings, that is what we need to do. Let's configure our connection string. So our app settings, we need to configure our connection strings. And now this connection string, we're going to have a look at eCommerce connection. And now with this, we're going to say that we're going to have our server mapped to local. Then we're going to have our database here mapped to eCommerce DB. Then have a trust server certificate or trusted underscore connection. Set this to yes or true. Then trust server certificate. Set this also to true. Okay, so this is what you need to do. You know, in production level, maybe it's not advisable. What we can keep it in here, or we can move all these connection string in the environment or an user secret. Okay, if I put in user secret environment, maybe it's quite challenging for you to see. That's the reason why I am putting them in here. But you know, in authentication, whereby you have our key, our issue, our audience, our connection strings, all of this must be in the user secret or even the environment. But well, you can also keep it here. It's a choice. If you want to know how you can access user secret, environment, and this, okay, I have a video done on that. I'll put it in the the video description. You can go ahead and check it out. How you can implement, how to save connection, how to save test information, data to user secret or even the environment, and how to retrieve it. I have made a video on that, so check it and look at it so you can know how to implement any of them. So these are connection string that we have. Aside from that, the next thing that you're going to work on is you need to create my Serilog log. So my Serilog, and now with this Serilog section, you need to have a key that is known as file name. So this each must be unique. So here the file name is a product API, but there is a product API that you're working on. The next thing that you're going to create here, it is authentication. Authentication as a section, and in this section we have a key. That is a key. And what is a key? So it's any random numbers. It should be unique, not visible to everybody or anyone. It should be more than 16, 40. Yeah, so you can grab it. Okay, so I also put a link where you can have access to a free string like this, okay, in the video description. If only I do not forget. Okay, so let's see. The next thing that we're going to do here is we want to have an issuer. And now this issuer is going to be a local host, so HTTPS, and we're going to customize it to suit this address. So HTTPS, in a local host issuer, our authentication will run on HTTP. So I'm not sure we should put this. Okay, so HTTP, then we're going to have a local host. It should run on 5000 as a basement. then that's going to be our issue. We're going to have the same thing as an audience. Listen, so you can set this to, in case Blazor are going to have any UI to consume this, that's when you need to specify the address of that in here. But for now, we have the same API consuming it and now taking it. It's sending, being an issuer, also be an audience. So we have an audience, and it is the same thing that you have in here. Great. So this is what we need. Now, this setting that we have in here, we need to make a copy of this into every API that we're going to create. As far as they're going to inherit login, they're going to inherit database connectivity, they're going to inherit authentication. So the best to do here is we can implement, keep this in a vault. That's a vault service. That's a hashy vault. I've created a video also how to implement that, how to save data in that server, and how to also retrieve it. So you can keep it in there. Now all APIs go in there, and I'll pick the connection and I'll use it. So instead of making a duplicate, you can just keep it somewhere wherever you can just go ahead, go in there, in and out, and I'll take it. But for now, this okay. Let's save this. Let's go to our products, program.cs file, and in here, let's add this. So first of all, we need to add a namespace, and that is a product API dot infrastructure dot dependency injection. And when we have this, let's remove. We're going to streamline this. Okay, when we are done, we're going to remove all swagger and etc. But for now, let's maintain, every aspect. We want to run, make this run. Okay, have a space. Okay, so this is what we have in here. Now in our builder, we're going to say builder.services, add. Then we need to add infrastructure services, which takes in builder dot configuration, and here too we want to put app.use infrastructure service policy, takes in app. Yes, we are done. So let's go to our controller, and that will be the end for this video. Let's go and create our controller. So right click on the controllers, let's add a new controller, and now this is going to be API. Let's make it as empty. Let's give it a name as product. So we have our products controller. Now with this, we want to inject our interface that we created, iProduct. And now we say this is product interface. So once you have this product interface, you can go ahead and start with our endpoint. The first endpoint is going to be HTTP GET. It should be in here. Now with this GET, we want to have a look at it. We're going to say this is public async task. Public async task. Now instead of using our interface to expose it to any return type, now we want to restrict this to what we want. And here with our create, we need, with our get product, we need an enumerable of product DTO. So that is what we need to do. So let's specify enumerable of product DTO. And now here we're going to say this is get product. And now with this get product, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get the product first, and aside from that, we're going to say this is dot get all async. So after we get this, we have this product. This product is coming in a form or in an entity of what? Product entity, not the DTO. We need to convert it. And bear in mind, we have created a conversion beautifully and waiting for us. And we're going to convert this in the controller. Okay. So we're going to say that if product that we have in here dot any, if the product that we have dot any, in case there's no product in there specified, you want to return not found, and we want to specify no product detected in the database. Well, you can customize this to suit what you want. Okay, but in case we find something, then what are we going to do? We need to now convert it. So we're going to say that here we use tuple to get it. Now there's a list. You know, we have a single, we have what? A list in a conversion. And because that's what you're going to return. We said this is a product conversion dot. We have the entity already, so we're going to say dot from entity, and we need to specify the product model. So this is going to be null, and in here we're going to have our product list that we have already. So what are we having? It should be action results. I believe you've done that already. Great. Let's make sure we also check the null. And that's what you're going to do. Return list if list dot any question mark. If yes, return OK with the list. But in case it isn't, then please do return not found. Now this not found, you're going to say no product found. You make sure you check the list nullable. So that's what we're doing in here. Let's go to by ID. So by ID, what are we doing? We have to get HTTP get. And now with this get, you know what we're going to do? We need to specify an ID. Now you want to store this. You cannot pass in anything. The ID must be an integer only, please. Then in here, we're going to say this is public async task. You know that already. So quickly do that. Public async task. You also want to make sure that we specify a type of output. So let's have an output action result. Since this is get by product, you're going to return product DTO, and then this is, we're going to say this is get product. And now with this get product, we need an ID, isn't it? We need to get an ID, and with this ID, we can have a look at that. So you're going to say this is a product, and say equal to await. We have a look something like product interface dot find. This is product interface dot find by ID async, passing this ID. So in here, after we have this, we're going to say that if product is null, then we want to return not found. So return not found, and we can say that this is a product requested not found. But in case it does, then we're going to convert it this time around using the same tuple. We need product, so this is product, and we're going to say this is null for that, for the list. And here we're going to use product conversion dot from entity, and now here we're going to provide the product, and we're going to provide null for the list. And we want to return a product return. Okay, because here we can cross check. Well, what do you think? You're going to check if it is null, right? So we're going to say return product is not null. That is, I want to return OK with the product. Return OK with the product, or return maybe bad request not found. not found. And it's going to return the status code of what? 404, not found. Okay, maybe we can specify something in here. Alright, so now that we have this, we have our get. Let's go to create. So you're going to have access to this, an HTTP post. Now this post, we're going to have public async task. This will come as an action result, and let's specify the return type restricted to response. This response is coming from our shared response, and that is create product. Takes in product DTO and as product. Okay. Now you want to check the model state. So check model state if all properties or if all data annotations are passed. So in case we're going to check, so if model state is going to return boolean, so we're going to say model state dot is valid, meaning if it is not valid, then what are we going to do? Then place do return bad request, and now pass in this model state. Now in case they do, then convert this to entity. You see? So with this, okay. So here we did not. So get no comment, get all product from service or from repo. Convert data from entity to DTO, and this is return. And so let me add it here and return it. I hope you can see that. So here you're doing the same thing. So get single product from the repo. Then here we're going to store convert from entity to DTO, and return. And now we are doing same here. So check model state, convert to entity. Before we say we need to convert to entity, so we're going to say this is get entity. Let's say this is get entity. Then equal to, we have our product conversion. Then dot to entity. Let's pass in a DTO of product, and that is a product in here. Now this is going to give us our get entity. That is in the form of DB set entity. Now once we do that, let's have our response. This response equal to await. We're going to have our product interface dot. Then we're going to have our create async, passing this get entity, and this is going to create it. After that, return. If response coming in has a success to true, that's a flag. If it is true, so we can make it if it's true question. If it is yes, then return okay with the response coming in. If no, then return bad request with the same response coming in. So we are switching between two results, object results. Okay, then we're going to handle the next one, and that's going to be the update, right? So there's an HTTP put, and now with this put, you're going to have public async task. That's an action results, And this action result is taken in as a response, as you know, and that is an update product. Takes in a product DTO. This takes in product DTO. We said this is product, and in here we want to also check for model state, so we can go ahead. Let's grab this in here. Then you want to also convert it, so you can also copy this. We have this entity in here. Then after that, we can update it. So instead of create async, you want to say that this is update async, and I return the response. Quite simple. Let's go to delete, and our delete is going to be http delete. Now with this delete, we want to have a public async task with a specific type of action results, which takes in response type. Then we say this is delete product, passing the product DTO as product. Then here, what are we going to do? For the delete, we need to convert this, so we can convert this also. Okay, then that is a product. I think it's wrongly spelled. So product, and aside from that, we need to get a response. So let's grab this, and instead of updates, we say delete, then return that. And that is what we are having for this. Okay, let's save it. Let's rebuild this project. So you can see that 5 succeeded. It's built successfully. Now, in order for us to test this, we need to perform migration, so we can have access to a database to test our controller. Now, let me go back to our app settings. In here, I'm going to make it as YouTube because I have a database, I think like that, named. So if I go to SQL Server Object Explorer, I have it over there. Alright, so let's make it as YouTube eCommerce DB. And now, once we're done with that, let's pull up our package manager console. If you're not having yours here, check our tools. You get package manager. You're going to have it in there, manager console, and that is it. Okay, now the next thing to do here is we have to set the controller as a startup project. So go to solution, there is a presentation, right click on that, set as startup, come to package manager, and now from the default project, set the infrastructure. That's where I want to perform the migration. So let's say there's add migration. We don't want to put the file anywhere. This is first, as you know, that's what I used to do. Put it in an -o is an output. So a folder called data, open it and I create another folder known as migrations, and I'll do your magic in there. Let's wait and see. And that is done. So migration is already created successfully for us. And when you go through, that is this. You can take time and go through what we specified, the same thing that it is using. To make this implement, let's update the database to implement this physically so we can see. So while this is going to run, we make sure we have our SQL object also here. I open my database, my connection. That's my server, and from databases I have an eCommerce. So let's wait and see. So console, okay. So this is not. It means there's an issue in there. Trust server certificate. Yes, I believe you saw it, right? Trust server certificate to true, and that is it. This should work. I believe you did that, so you're not having an issue. Let's see. Yes. Great. Oh, nice. Fantabulous. Now let's refresh it. Database. Refresh. And there you go. We got it. Now let's run it. So how do we run? Let's make sure our API is active as startup. It's running on HTTP, not HTTPS. Since we deleted HTTPS, we're not even having it in here. We have HTTP. Now let's run it. We test our card, and that is all. Alright, so when you check here, you can see we have this service unavailable. Yes, of course, we made it. The reason is it is listening to open only the API gateway, but whilst even the API does not exist for now. So let's disable that, and we can do that from the shared project. Go to the dependencies, services, shared services, and now let's comment this. For now, comment this. Let's rerun this and check it out. Alright, so let's rerun this bit again. Oh, and there you go. So we have our CRUD here. So we can specify whatever thing that we need in here, isn't it? Okay. Now let's see. This is all we need to do. So now let's go in there and I'll try to get. So not found. No product detected, and we know where this is coming from. Let's go and add default one. Maybe the price here is this. String is Netcode. Net. Click on execute. Let's wait and see if it's going to get added to the database. Yes, has been added. Now we can go ahead and now get it again. Get all. And check it. We have an ID of 1. We can go back. Now we've tested this too. From this update, we can say we have the ID of 1. And this is string. We have net updated. This map to 145 and etc. Click on execute. And now updated. So let's go to get by ID. Execute. You can see we have the content in here. Now let's try with the delete. So we're going to add another one. Let me maybe as this. Execute. Added. To get all, that's going to be an ID of 2. So let's go and delete the ID of 2. Delete, pass in the ID. All that you need to do here is pass in this ID of 2. Okay. Execute this. Now let's see. So it has a bad request. The quantity, okay. Maybe you can specify something in there. Then execute. Now delete it. So when you go back and get lists of products, check it out. Yeah, you're good to go. Alright, so in this video we've seen how to create the product API. We have our CRUD working. We've included our shell library that we created, and everything is working intact. Great. The next video we're going to work on the other APIs, and after that we see how we can connect all this together through the oscilloscope or to the API gateway. And I believe you've learned something new as always. Yeah. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and also check the channel playlist. I have a lot of content dedicated for you that may help you, so you can check this out. Give this video a thumbs up. Do not forget, it's very important if you want to support this as well. Alright, that is it for this video. Thank you, and catch up again. Till then, take care and happy coding.